Here we go.
Tricky business.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
this handwriting is actually divided up in 3 basic zones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know if they can see this, but the upper zone is the abstract imagination. This has to do with philosophies, concepts, religion, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
The middle zone is called the mundane area. This is where the here and now is.
Oh, okay.
Exactly what you're doing right now.
Oh, okay.
And the lower zone houses the material imagination. It also houses the physical imagination. This tells you if you got a lot of friends or not a lot of friends. Having a Y like this, looking at this with a loop in it, says this person likes people. If he just had a straight line down, he likes a few people. That's where we're going to start. So we got 3 zones.
Okay. All right.
The abstract area, the middle zone, which is your mundane area, the here and now, and then you have your lower zone, which has to do with material imagination, friends, people, and concepts. Okay, everybody got
Where
that?
the action takes
Yes, we
place.
do.
Okay, you want to add anything to that, Pat?
Well, I always tell them in my class that I have currently that if it's easier for you to understand that the loops that go above the waist, in other words, above the waist, and then below the waist, they identify with that a little bit more easily.
Okay.
Because the action takes place below the line.
Yeah.
And the wider that loop is, the more activity they like, the more people they like, the more things they want. You know.
Pat mentioned an important item. This line that goes underneath these letters here is the baseline. We call it the imaginary line. You don't even see it. But every letter we look at is, we put a line underneath it, and then, which I'm going to get into in a second, we draw how your letters actually lean. This is what we're going to talk about now.
Okay.
Now, this one here, okay.
Yeah.
Now, the first thing we learn in handwriting analysis is emotional responsiveness. It's all determined by how you slant your letters. Now, if you're way over to the left, you're withdrawn. If you're straight up and down, you're more objective. You're more cool. If you're way over to the right, you're more impassive, more impulsive. You wear your heart on your sleeve. So, first thing that's important is emotional response. This is how you react innerly to, say, I upset you this morning. This is how you react innerly. Now,
this way, going this right
Not
in this way.
necessarily obvious to the public.
I see.
But anyway, the next aspect is depth. We call it emotional depth. It's actually pressure of handwriting. If you're a heavy pressure writer, you might go on for a year from now to say, hey, Dave, I forgive you, but you don't forget, okay? If you're very light, you might get over it tomorrow.
I like that.
And if you're married to a person like that, say one's heavy pressure, the other one's light, the light gets them off their chest right away.
But the one
The other one's going on for days and saying, why is she mad at me still?
It's like a wood, wood in the fire, you know.
So anyway, so we start off, when we teach the course, the first lesson actually has to do with emotional responsiveness, emotional depth. Then we get into thinking, how people think. And this one here, this one's a little bigger. Okay. People think differently. Okay? You have people that think, like we call it cumulative handwriting. Their letters are round. They're more friendly. They're more outgoing type of personalities. Now, Edison actually was a cumulative thinker. It's like a bricklayer. Once you learn, but you might take time to understand. You look for information, and once you got it, you got it. So the next one is called analytical thinking. Now, if you can see this, there's wedges.
Okay.
That's supposed to say men. Okay, the wedge that comes down here is analytical. You see them on each side. Now, when you're looking at thinking, you're thinking of 3 different letters, basically. The H's, the M's, and the N's. So as a graphical analyst, we look at it real quick. We can tell what thinking power you have. Why do some kids do good in school? It's not how smart they are. It's how they think.
Exactly.
Now, if they have all of these, you know they're doing great in school. I mean, a few years back, I did Naniwang High School, and one of the kids had every one of these thinking things, patterns that I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
So I said, if you're not at top of your game, you got a problem. He said, Mr. Dewitt, I'm the valedictorian. So you can see things like that in handwriting. But anyway, when you get an analytical one, you see the wedge there, you have a wedge underneath here.
Good question.
You usually get two thinking powers with it. This is called investigative thinking. This person will say, hey, is this man telling me really what's going on? I'm going to check him out.
Yeah.
Okay, then you have exploratory. It's better to look at this higher one over here because it goes way up in the abstract area. This is a person that says, why is the sun red tonight? You might want to check it a little bit further.
Well, that's me. I do
Yeah.
that.
All right, that's part of you.
Well, you're
Jim.
exploring in science,
Yeah,
right?
I am,
So there you
I am.
go.
Now, over here you see these little points like on the M. This is keen comprehension. They're like points. And people usually get quick. Things come to them very quickly.
Yeah, without
it's
any
like
question.
something you do every day. It just comes naturally to you. So basically the four here that I mentioned up here, the cumulative, the analytical, the investigative, and exploratory are usual. This one here we just throw in is keen comprehension. I was going to say something about Donald Trump. He has all these points on his handwriting.
Okay.
He grasps things, boom, like that.
Right.
Okay.
Let me ask you, if I may, if I could just put an elephant in the room.
Go ahead.
You guys mentioned that no matter how you try to discuss, you may want to sit down, maybe that we can see your face. Let me see if I get this right. No matter what you do to try to disguise or hide, you're going to find that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
There's no saying that, oh, I forgot it already. There's no saying where, we are creatures of habit.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Keyword being habit. If somebody writes something all the time the same, no matter what, okay, let me put it this way. If they're capable of being able to write something, a word, the same way, no matter what situation they're in, what does that mean? Or is there such a thing as somebody who has a creature of habit of writing it? It's always going to be the same. And can you analytically evaluate that?
I just want to mention, say you work for the FBI
Okay.
or the CIA.
Yeah.
You know, you have to lie a lot. It comes natural,
Exactly.
and it'll be that way in your handwriting. So it's like a lie detector test.
Okay.
So if they feel natural with it, it'll always show up.
Oh, okay.
There's always
So
one.
So it's always going to come up anyway.
It's going to come up, and it's going to be hard for people like us to really say, is this person really lying?
Yeah.
Because it's a natural thing for this person
So
in their job.
it can be deceiving.
It can be deceiving.
It
That's
can
why-
be. You have to be
That's
careful.
why lie detector tests aren't
Or
held up in
100%.
court.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So in a way, handwriting could be
Yes.
tricky for you
Yes.
when you analyze somebody, say you're being paid to analyze somebody, do you request different time periods where something was written?
Right.
Exactly. 3 or 4, actually, at different times of the day, the weeks, without knowing that you were going to be analyzed. Because if I told you to write a sample right now, you're going to be a little apprehensive and you're going to try to make it neat. We don't want that. We want something that has been in the old...
blood pressure today is going to be different if you take it now, but a couple of days later, it's going to be fine.
It's different.
I see.
But we usually require, like Pat mentioned, at least 100 different strokes.
Right.
We're not going to get that probably from what we have from these samples, okay?
Right.
And we like 3 pages of handwriting, basically, because when you get down to the last page, it's your subconscious. We don't want you consciously doing what we're telling you to do.
Right, exactly.
I just want to say, and I think it's fair to say for the both of you, you guys are great people. I just want to say that we're not here to find ways of determining this person's guilty.
No.
This also has a great way to help guide you or to help tell you where you may be at with regards to what you want to do in the future. You know, it isn't about finding guilt.
No,
I just want to say that.
It's
because
one
it is
of
about
the psychological tools.
Exactly. And this could benefit people in many, many different ways.
Absolutely.
I just want to get that across.
That's good, because when I go out to talk,
Counseling?
I want to talk about the positive. I don't like
Right.
to get into the negatives. It's just like a chess game when you read Handwriting. You can see the strength and the weakness of everybody.
Okay.
So we stick to the positives. We don't usually get into the negatives.
I bet you guys have a fascinating time of doing this.
Oh,
right?
if you're
People
taking
you
a
meet.
sample of writing from
Uh-huh.
someone you never met, and they, for instance, they put it in the mail, and you have the sample in front of you, by the time you finish analyzing the strokes and the slant, and then they have signed it,
Yeah.
it's almost like this person comes to life that you never met, but you got to know them.
And do you know? Do you feel for them? I mean, do you understand them?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
do you get to know
Oh,
them?
yeah.
So
Well,
you
you'd have
that's the
to
same thing.
understand them because you now know how they feel.
Yeah.
They don't express it necessarily outwardly, but
Yeah.
it's, like David said, it's inside. And then we don't know how they behave. We'll never be able to tell their behavior, but we
Right.
know how they react to certain stimulus. And then we know how they think, and we know so many of the traits. There are about, what, 185 traits that you can figure?
There's 125 basic
Yeah,
traits.
right.
And then there's elevated traits, which we won't go in here because
No.
that gets a little
Would
complicated.
take forever, yeah.
Could you give us a couple of basic traits that you look for? Could
Yeah.
you name a few?
Well, we're
Anger?
going to actually,
We can
actually,
show you,
we're going to
actually.
actually
All
go
right.
into it a little bit here.
I'm